All right, guys, let's go ahead and hop in and talk about our preseason top 25 predictions. AP published it last week, right? They published their first top 25.
It's something like
Um,
that.
so this is Tyler's list right now. We're showing you Tyler's list. All three of us have made our own list, but we're just going to go ahead and use this tier maker to try to discuss how we want to move people around or if we're okay with keeping them the same. So, I mean, I'll go ahead and start in saying I'm okay with having Texas at 1.
That's what Texas has won on both major polls, in the coaches poll and the AP poll. They probably have the best defense in the country, and they bring back. They'll have a really solid offensive line. I expect them to have solid production and skill position players, and then they have the talk of the town in Arch Manning, who I am buying stock in, despite some people not being as high. I believe in Arch, so give me the Longhorns. We should have put their logo upside down though.
That's true.
Yeah, I've had Texas at number 1. I think since we started looking ahead to this year, and I don't think anything has changed to move them away from that spot.
It's due time for Sark to win the big one. So
With the rest of the top 5, I personally have Penn State and Clemson flipped, so I don't really care how you have them. I have Penn State 2, Clemson 3, so that's fine. I had LSU lower down. Did I have? Yeah, I had Notre Dame 7, and I had LSU 10. But then again, like it's
we all have
interchangeable.
We all have Texas, Clemson, Penn State 1, 2, and 3.
I do.
I am really high on LSU and Notre Dame, and I can get into why. But who do you have in that 4 and 5 spot? Both of you,
or 4 and 5. I have Ohio State 4, Georgia 5.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think I like Ohio State definitely in the top 5, and I think Georgia has to be up there as well, above Alabama at least.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see Georgia is deceptive, like ridiculously low on my list. So do you want – okay. Georgia is not going to have a bad year. However, this is the least confidence I have had in a quarterback at Georgia since like 2020. I don't know if Gunnar Stockton can be what Stetson Bennett or Carson Beck was. And there is no more Brock Bowers. There is no more Ladd McConkey. So they don't have a ton of, incredible playmakers around Gunnar Stockton. Now they're Georgia, so they're going to have elite talent around him, just not to the level that I think Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, any production that they had last year in 2024 around him. And I think Gunnar Stockton is going to struggle to win games, especially on the road. I just see Georgia taking a step back this year. Now, does that mean they take a step back past like 7-5, 8-4 step back? No. Kirby Smart is still Kirby Smart. They're going to win a lot of games. I'm just not as high on Georgia this year as I normally am. I think they fall into what typically is the Tennessee range, or I'm trying to think of other good teams that I think they'll fall into that range of. But like I said, just not as high. LSU, however, I'm riding the Nuss bus, okay? This is my Heisman favorite. I said Sawyer Robertson would be there, but Garrett Nussmeier is going to win it. Prediction. Around LSU, you bring in you said Texas Tech had the best transfer portal class in the country. I think it was LSU and then Texas Tech second. Either way, they're pretty interchangeable. If I'm going to be high on Texas Tech, I'm going to be high on LSU for the same reason. They bring in a ridiculous amount of talent from the transfer portal. They have weapons all over the field for Meyer to throw the ball to. The past 2 times the LSU has had a second-year starting quarterback in Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow. Both of them have won the Heisman and taken their team to high places. I think Nussmeier does the same thing. He gets rid of some of the struggles that he had last year. They find a way to get over the hump. Brian Kelly finds a way to make it to the playoff, and we'll see what happens from there. As for Notre Dame, everything that Notre Dame was last year, they're going to be again. They're going to have an elite defense. They're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the country. Jeremiah Love is still there. He's probably, if not the best back in the country. And so it is all going to be on, can CJ Carr be a solid quarterback? And behind the offensive line that Notre Dame has, I don't see how CJ Carr can have the talent that he has and not be a solid quarterback. And if you look at Notre Dame's schedule, everything plays out in their favor. There's only like 2 or 3 losable games. Now, with the caveat that Notre Dame also lost to Northern Illinois last year. But let's not forget that they made it to the national championship. And despite the game not particularly being close, they still gave Ohio State some troubles, which is not something that Oregon could say or Tennessee. And so I expect Notre Dame to be back in that equation next year, which is why I have them in the top 5.
Like I was saying, a lot of these guys in the top 10 and even some in the top 15 can be sort of interchangeable. I like the points that you made, so I get the reasoning. And so, like I said, there are so many things to prove this season. That's why doing preseason picks are hard. And yeah, they are incredibly hard. But I agree with you. LSU did also have a really great transfer portal class. So, and also I get Notre Dame being up there. I had them at 7. You have them at 5. So
yeah, so it's close.
Yeah. One team I had Alabama at 9. Where did I have Oregon? I had Oregon at 6. So basically the same thing. Florida I had down at 13, and this is where you're gonna hate me, but I figure you already know Baylor's not on my list. So,
yeah, that's fine. And I'll be honest, I think Baylor at 10 is a little high. Like I would not be, scared to move Baylor down below like Miami or Illinois. They could probably be in the 16 range. I just wanted to show some respect for the Big 12 because of how well Arizona played against Texas in that second half. I mean, Arizona State took them to overtime, almost beat them. So I wanted to show some love to the Big 12. I think Baylor's my Big 12 favorite, so I wanted to have at least one team near the top 10.
That's right. I had Arizona State at 11.
Okay.
I know you got Georgia Tech in there. Georgia Tech is in my honorable mentions, but I think pre-show you already knew we were talking about Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech I have in my honorable mentions, and the more I looked into them, the more I think they can be competitive. So I don't hate that you have them on there. Oklahoma I had down at 17. Georgia I had higher. Miami I had at number 8 in Oregon's spot. A few teams I'm looking at too. South Carolina had at 16, actually. That's perfect. Arizona State I had at 11, like I said. Texas Tech, I have them down at 21.
Okay.
They're a little lower. Washington, I did not have on there. I do want to talk a little bit about Washington because I know you're high on Washington, so I just want to hear your take on that.
Well, I will get to Washington. I actually want to address the Georgia Tech situation because I think Georgia Tech is also pretty high for what most people are going to have them. Clemson has so much talent on their roster that I think it is going to be difficult for them to lose the ACC. There's only 2 teams in that conference that I think stand a chance to beat Clemson, if anybody does, and that's Georgia Tech and Miami. Georgia Tech more so because let me put y'all on some Haynes King and Brent Key. They have taken Georgia down to the wire for 2 years in a row. Brent Key is one of the – who did I say? Did I say Haynes King?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a aneurysm just now. Anyway, they have taken Georgia down to the wire both years. I'm picking Georgia Tech in that game this year. Give me the Yellow Jackets to beat the Bulldogs at home. They go 11-1. Only losses to Clemson in the regular season. Unfortunately, I don't think that they win the ACC championship. Actually, I don't even have them in the ACC championship, simply because of how schedules are made up. And I can explain that more if you want to. But I just wanted to address the Georgia Tech situation because not enough people are talking about Haynes King and the Yellow Jackets and Jamal Haynes at running back and their ability to just ground and pound, run the damn ball, and just make things happen. They are a nitty-gritty team, and they're going to be in the top 15 this year. Mark my words. Now, you wanted to talk about Washington. Washington was one of those teams last year, and this can be said for USC as well, which you can see in my honorable mentions. They seemed like one of those teams that was in some games, and the ball did not fall their way. And so typically they kind of reverses the next year. So a team that won or lost a lot of close games in the previous year wins or loses the opposite the next year. If you look at Desmond Williams, what he was able to do in the back half for Washington, if you look at Jonah Coleman, he was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. I think they have a lot of solid skill positions players around him. Not anything spectacular on defense, but I also think that they'll be solid on defense. This is me being bold because I don't want to just say, hey, what the rankings were at the end of last year is what is going to happen this year, because that's unrealistic. I wanted to pick some things that were a little out there, say it with chest. I think Washington finds a way into the top 25 this year simply because of how much I like Jonah Coleman and Desmond Williams at that quarterback running back duo. And I think they have a favorable schedule. The toughest games is going to be Ohio State, but they get them at home. And then I believe they have Oregon at home too. So if they could find a way against one of those two teams, or if they went out and just lose those two games, that's 10-2, and they find themselves awful close to being a playoff contender.
See, I like your listing strategy of being bold, because now looking at that and knowing that, this all sort of makes sense, where you have bold predictions for teams that other people may not think about. So if you're if you're trying to prove like Georgia Tech's going to be there, and you're trying to prove Washington's going to be there, like you're saying, they have Oregon at home, they have a chance to get it done.
I think they have Oregon at home.
Using that bold ranking style is, like you were saying it with chess, but I like that. I was trying to be more based off of the AP, more based off of ESPN, and more based off of who would I want to watch and who would I think would win a certain game. That's sort of how I ranked my list.
I think the other one is Oklahoma. I've got them not only in the top 15, but I have them above Georgia, who has been at the top of the SEC for the past 2 years. And Oklahoma went 6-7 last year, losing to Navy. Okay, and so saying that Oklahoma is not even going to be top 15, not only is going to be top 15, but is going to be above a team that has been atop the SEC for the past several years now is very bold. But let me teach y'all about some John Mateer. I'll just say it right now. I'm going to say it again. That's my third Heisman candidate. You've got Sawyer Robertson, Garrett Nussmeier, John Mateer. All three of them will be at the Heisman ceremony. I am extremely high on Oklahoma. They don't have they're in the SEC, so you're going to have a difficult schedule. But if they can find a way to win some of those coin flip games, they get Texas at the annual neutral site, they get Ole Miss at home, Tennessee on the road, Alabama on the road, and Oklahoma or LSU at home. If they can find a way to win 2 or 3 of those games, I expect them to be in the conversation.
Lombs, I know you and I were talking a little bit before the show about Michigan, and it looks like Tyler has Michigan in his honorable mentions, and me and you both think that he should be ranked, or that Michigan should be ranked. I have Michigan at 12. I don't know where you have him.
I have Michigan at 14. I just think he's way too low on Michigan. The disrespect is crazy.
What did they do last year to other than beat a questionable Alabama team? What did Michigan do last year to say, hey, we should be in the conversation? Now, yes, they beat Ohio State, but that's because Ryan Day cannot beat Michigan. They beat Alabama, but that same Alabama team lost to Vanderbilt. Sorry, Diego Pavia and Clark Lee. That's a
good Vanderbilt team.
It sounds like they're doing good things and you're punishing them for it.
I don't think they did as many good things as what you guys think they did. They beat an Ohio State team simply because that Ohio State team could not score on them, but then they lost to, I can't even remember their schedule. I need to pull up their schedule. I don't think that Michigan did enough to warrant being ranked in the preseason, or has brought in enough in the offseason, or made enough offseason moves to warrant being in the top 25. Now, yes, head-to-head, they'd probably beat Tulane or Boise State, but I wanted to show some love to the G5. And Michigan's
you have way too many Big 12 teams I'm sorry. It's way too
I
high.
have 4.
1, 2, 3. No, you have 5.
Okay, I have 5. Why is that too many? That's like how many there was at the end of last season.
And then Baylor's just way too high though too, because Baylor at 10. Come on, I have them at just misses the top 25.
Arizona State
I don't know where you have.
was up there.
No, Tyler said that he was going with the bold style. That's why he put Baylor up there, and he even said his own list is too high from where he'd want Baylor to be.
I think if you were to move Baylor down to like right around the 13 to 15 range, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Like this is going into the season, and you think Baylor is 10 going into the season?
No, this is what I think the teams will be accomplished this season.
Is this not our preseason rankings? What is this?
This is how I think the team should be ranked going into the season.
And that's asinine to have Baylor at 10.
Okay, so then Ohio State should be at 1 because they won the Natty last year?
Yeah, they have a reputation to uphold.
Okay, I'm not saying you can't rank that way, but I said I wanted to be more bold. This is how I think the rankings will shake out this year. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Predictions are silly because nobody knows, but I just think that this is how it will play out this year. Baylor, I think, is going to be at the top of the Big 12. Texas and LSU, I think, is going to be at the top of the SEC. Penn State and Oregon and Ohio State is going to be the top 3 in the Big 10. That's how I think it's going to play out.
I guess, but then the only other one that I can see that's glaring at me is going to be Kansas State at 20.
Why?
Look at their performance. I think there's a million other teams that could be better than them right now. They're not even on my just misses.
1 week 0 game that was played in Dublin, so they were jet lagged in poor weather, and they still managed to keep a close game against a team that played in the Big 12 championship last year. I would say that warrants a top 25 ranking.
I guess.
I have them just missed.
I could see the argument, but I just don't think 20 is right.
Who do you have in place of Kansas State?
Well, my order's a bit different than yours because I have Michigan at 14, which
yeah.
is the order.
Michigan at 14 is way too.
Let me rattle, I guess, from 11th down. I mean, I have Georgia at 10. I know you have Georgia at 13. But Georgia Tech, you have in 2. I know you're being bold, but I have Georgia Tech at 25. At 11, I have Arizona State. 12, Illinois. 13, Florida. 14, Michigan. 15, South Carolina. 16, Iowa State. 17, Oklahoma. 18, Texas A&M. 19, Ole Miss. 20, SMU. I feel like SMU – people, I don't understand. I feel like they're not getting respected enough. Like they had such a phenomenal performance last year, and they're just not expected to repeat. But if you look at their schedule, they're in prime position to do so.
Like it is preseason, so it could go any way. There's no way that all 4 of us could put together a top 25 and agree on everything.
Of course.
Arizona State was towards the top last year as the winner of the Big 12. I think that's where Baylor finds themselves this year, and I even said they could be a little lower if you wanted them to. I just wanted to show some respect to the Big 12. I wanted to make some bolder picks. That's why you see Georgia Tech. That's why you see Oklahoma. That's why you see Florida in the top 10. I don't think enough people are talking about Washington because of Williams and Jen Coleman. And then the Big 12 teams, they're at the 17 through 20 spot. I don't think any of those are crazy in the order that they are. And the Big 12 is so close that it kind of makes sense to have all the Big 12 teams right beside each other.
The last thing I'll say before we move on is Illinois, where you have Illinois compared to me. I have Illinois at 24. You have Illinois at 15. Lombs, you said you had them at 12?
Yeah, you don't have them. You don't have faith in them?
I do not have faith in Illinois. Now, to be honest, do I have bias against Hudson Clement? Absolutely. But I still think that Illinois is a good team. I mean, good enough to be ranked.
What if I told you that Illinois had they retained 75% of their production from last year?
And they had a really solid 2024.
What was their record last year?
9-3, and they beat South Carolina in their bowl game. Beamer ball.
I don't know. I'm still not going top 15 range on them. I think they're good. I think they lose more games this season than you guys think they do, because we were talking about this before we started. I think they could go 9-3 again. So,
Well, that would be the same amount of games as they won last season, not more or less.
well, I know, but I'm saying I think Illinois is not top 15. I think they go 9-3 again. Which where were they ranked at the end of the
They were
season?
close to 15.
I mean, I'm kind of glazing Michigan, and I have Illinois finishing better than Michigan this year. So,
He is very, very glazing in Michigan.
hail to the victors.
Well, I guess that's my.
I
That's
also don't
my
understand the
Michigan.
Ole Miss glaze.
Ole Miss. I have Ole Miss 18th.
No.
I'm Ole Miss 18th. I have Texas A&M 19th.
Yeah, Ole Miss at 19 for me.
Sorry, Kiffin. I'm off the coaster.
Oh.
Yeah, well, you're gonna be on the coaster by mid-season. I'm telling you that.
I do
When
think the Aggies are higher.
When they're 3-3.
I don't know where, but I think they're top 20. I think Aggies are top 25.
Sergeant, look at their schedule. They have Georgia State, Kentucky, Arkansas, Tulane, LSU, and Washington State. If you're telling me they're not at minimum 5-1, the season is lost.
It is already lost because they don't have Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
All right, so they start what 4-0. They lose to LSU. They beat Washington State. Lose to Georgia on the road. Lose to Oklahoma at the road. South Carolina is a toss-up. They beat the Citadel. They lose to Florida. They'll beat Mississippi State. I'm going either 8-4 or 7-5 from Ole Miss. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they beat Beamer Ball at home. I'm not a believer. Sorry, Kiffin.
I'm just laughing at how different our lists are.
Very different. I'm telling you, like what mine is extremely bold. And
Yeah.
that is what I wanted it to be because last year we had Florida State in the top 10 and they ended up 2-10. So like if you're
Right.
not being bold, you're just wrong.
You call it bold, I call it brain dead, but
This is why it's fun to have Lombs on. This is why we decided. This is why we decided to have him on. This is great. Great content.